Good afternoon. Glad you guys could join us today for Bible study time. And today we're going to be in Proverbs chapter 13. We're going to look at verse 1, verse 13, and verse 20. And we're going to kind of see how they might be able to relate together. You know, what we're going to talk about today is how to receive and get the most from criticism. Nobody likes to be criticized. Nobody likes to be corrected. But it's a part of life, and the way we handle that is going to determine in a lot of ways about how much we get better at certain things or how much we're willing to see things in our own lives. You know, Proverbs 13:1 says, "A wise son hears his father's instruction, but a mocker doesn't listen to rebuke." You know, the first thing about criticism is to, in my opinion, is to kind of, there should be a weight system as to how much weight you give to a certain amount of criticism. You know, this particular verse is referring to the criticism that comes from a father. And to me, I put a lot more weight into criticism or suggestions or whatever that comes from people that I know their heart. I know their heart for me. I know their love for me. And so I give their criticism a lot more weight. Now, sometimes you get criticism from people you barely know, particularly on social media. And I would give that I would look it over, see if there's any truth there, see if there's something that you can gain for it, and then you move on. Don't put a whole lot of weight on people who've offered criticism that you don't know their heart and they don't really know you either. You know, through the years, I've even gotten at different times anonymous letters from people that talk about certain things or whatever. And the bottom line is they're usually referring to some specific incident that I don't even know what they're talking about. So it really doesn't do me any good. You know, I'll read them and then, usually just stick them in the drawer, throw them away or whatever and move on. Because you have to question, why is it they're not willing to come to me individually? Why are they not telling me who they are? How much weight do you give to anonymous criticism? Well, I would say almost none. I don't mind looking at them, and you know what? If there's something there, maybe it's just a matter of perception. Maybe they perceive something wrong, and I would go, okay, you know what? I want to make sure that I clear up that perception next time. But as far as making major life changes or major decisions based on anonymous criticism, I would say, yeah, never. Okay? Because you don't know who that's coming from. You don't know if their desire for you is for good or for evil or what. So I always look at, with a lot of suspicion, people who want to criticize without putting their name to it. If you really believe something strongly, then be willing to stand up for it. Be willing to stand up, and if you really love somebody, you're willing to go to them and tell them, hey, this is going to cause you harm, or this is a difficulty for you, or it's causing difficulty for other people. If they really love you, they'll be willing to come tell you. So that's probably the least amount of weight that I would put on something, would be from someone that's anonymous or is not willing to tell me who they are, so I don't have any idea where it's coming from. And then the greatest weight would be on people that I've known and trusted over the years, that they're maybe they've given me criticism or suggestions in the past that have proven to be right, to be true, but I know that their heart for me is for my good. I'm going to give them the most weight to things that they say. And so you want to, and everyone else will be kind of somewhere in between. So you don't want to put too much weight on criticism where there shouldn't be. Sometimes we get caught up because everybody wants to be liked by everybody. But that's just not possible. There's a certain person that got mad, and this was, 13, maybe 15 years ago, because in church one Sunday I didn't come over and speak to them directly. Well, even back then we had, there were 150 people or 200 people in there. There was no way to go speak to everybody individually. And even though I've told them that, here's what they answer. Well, yeah, but. What they're saying is, you should have come talk to me because they expected to be treated at a certain level, There's not really much you can do with that. Now, through the years, they've not been willing to let go of that. So it resurfaces every now and then. So, so-and-so said they're blah, blah, blah. You know what, I've done what I could there, you move on. So, you're going to get different things through the years. Not everybody's going to like you. And not everybody's going to like the way you believe or what you think or what your opinions are or what your faith is or anything else. And even though there's part of us that wants everyone to like us, it's just not possible. You can't please God and man. So if you're going to please God, you're going to displease people. And you know what? Sometimes people are just you're not going to mesh. For one reason or another, you're just, you just butt heads or you just don't get along or you don't care for the way each other does stuff. That's just part of life. It's a big world. There's plenty of room out there. There's plenty of people. Don't get caught up trying to make somebody like you that for whatever reason has chosen not to. So you give weight to advice. The second thing we're going to see is in verse 13. It says, the one who has contempt for instruction will pay the penalty, but the one who respects a command will be rewarded. I think that the one thing that you don't want to do about criticism is just to dismiss it out of hand. No matter who it is or where it's coming from, there may be something that you can learn there. And so even though I'm not saying I don't believe you should take some of that to heart, is there something that you can learn from that, to help you be better moving forward? I think that you need to pay attention to criticism, particularly to criticism that's about, hey, the way you did this caused that or whatever. But it's important that we don't just dismiss it, that we really do search through it and see, what, is there some truth there that I'm just not seeing? Now, once again, that goes back to the weighted thing. How much time or effort do you put into trying to discern something? I think that has to do with the amount of weight that you put on the criticism and where it comes from. But it's also not a good idea to just dismiss it out of hand. You want to make sure that even criticism sometimes that is meant to hurt you, that's not meant for your good, can teach you something and can help you learn something and help you move forward. So the last part is verse 20. The one who walks with the wise will become wise, but a companion of fools will suffer harm. That goes to another part about weighting your criticism. And I'm saying that W-E-I-G-H-T-I-N-G, not W-A-I-T. If you're listening to advice from people that are not going down the path that you want to go, then you're going to end up making the same bad decisions that they do. So when you look at how much you take as far as criticism or instruction from people, make sure that it's from people that are at least going the same direction and preferably maybe are farther down the road than you are. If you're trying to get some advice about how to fix and maintain your car, you don't go find somebody whose car's falling apart and is always asking you for a ride. You know what I'm saying? You go find somebody that knows how to maintain a car, that knows how to keep it in good condition. You go ask them for their advice. You go ask for advice about, what about marriage? You don't go find somebody that's never been able to stay in a relationship for more than a few months or a year or so. You go find people that have proven that they've been able to sustain a relationship over a period of time. They're the people that you go to and ask advice. Too many times I see people that they're taking advice, but they're taking it from the wrong people. They're taking it from folks that really don't know what they're talking about, instead of going to people that have some knowledge in an area. So I think that Proverbs is one of the most practical books you can read. It's part of my daily Bible reading because I read 5 chapters of Psalms, 5 Psalms, and 1 book of Proverbs, 1 chapter of Proverbs every day. There's 31 chapters in Proverbs, so every month I go through the entire chapter, depending on the day of the month, the entire book, And there's a lot of practical advice in there, and I wanted you to see some of that from Proverbs. Hey, criticism, it almost always stings a little bit at the beginning, but if it's coming from, depending on where it comes from, that kind of sets to how much we're going to pay attention to it and how much we're going to try to apply it to our lives. But when we take criticism and we use it for our benefit, it can be for our good. And when we refuse to accept any criticism, it's going to be to our detriment. So I hope that helps you a little bit. Everybody's going to be criticized. Stop taking advice from people that don't have any idea about what they're telling you. And the other part of that is, don't listen to criticism. Don't take it to heart from people that don't have your best interests at heart. and look at where they are in that scale about in weighting their criticism. And then also, as far as are they someone that you would consider wise in that area, that they have knowledge, they have experience, they can tell you from experience and from the Word of God. It always got to line up with the Word of God. But do they have a mature walk with the Lord? Do they have wisdom in a particular area? Then you give a lot more weight to what they tell you than you might someone else. So be careful about how you weight criticism, and then also be careful not to just dismiss it out of hand. So I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time.